Okay, so a while since I have done an interview, but I had to interview this gentleman because he has a new YouTube channel that is definitely worth subscribing to, getting in there and supporting him. Because from what I've seen, just from the two videos has up right now, he is a brilliant paper piecer, something I am not, and I'll admit I don't like.
But
I
you
get all
can be.
confused. Well, I've done it before, but I shouldn't say don't like it. I just haven't done it enough, I guess. But your video that you have, and we'll be talking about your YouTube channel in a bit anyways, is you've in your first two videos, your instructions you're doing are extremely clear. And a lot of people get really lost in paper piecing. I was one of them and probably still am. But anyways, we'll come to all of that in a moment. But first of all, as I said, this is Chris Milner. And Chris, where are you located?
I'm Clint.
Blew it already. Oh, why the heck? See, I told you. I told you that I would be the one that it is Clint. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know why I would have said Chris. I don't even know a Chris. But anyways, it is Clint Milner. And where are you located, Clint?
I'm located in the Dallas, Texas area, just a little bit north of Dallas in the Metroplex. It all kind of merges into one. Eventually, you don't really know when you're leaving Dallas and entering another city. So it's a city called Plano, Texas, a little bit north of Dallas, maybe 20 minutes away from the city center.
Okay, so are you a native to Texas?
I am. I grew up in East Texas,
Oh, because
which
you probably know why I'm asking this. I don't hear an accent. At least not what I would
yeah.
expect to be a Texas accent.
You
But
know, that's interesting you say that because I grew up in East Texas. If you're familiar with Texas at all, East Texas probably has the heaviest accent
hmm,
out of everybody. And when I went to college, it took maybe one or two people to kind of make fun of me of my accent that I really focused on really clarifying my words. And so that's what I started doing. I really started practicing my diction and how I pronounce things. And I ended up losing the accent, which is okay. If I get tired, you'll hear it a little bit, but and every once in a while it'll creep out with some of the words like y'all and stuff. So so
yeah, well,
you can't lose that part, but for the most part, I've kind of lost it.
anyway, so now I am confused by you. I watched your videos, but I also went to your some of your other media as well. I'm not stalking, I'm researching.
Yeah.
And I see that you had on your Instagram, especially a lot of cross stitch.
Mhm. Yeah.
So is quilting something brand new to you, or is it something that you only do on occasion, or
Yeah, that's a great question because I did start my Instagram as a cross stitch Instagram. That's really what I was working on. And ever since I was little, I had been involved in some type of, I call it fiber arts,
mm,
whether that was knitting, crocheting, cross stitch, sewing. I've been sewing since 2010, I believe. And so, but it was primarily garments and things like
okay.
that. So I made lots of dinner jackets for myself and things like that. I would watch, Alexander McQueen runways and recreate dinner jackets for myself, which was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. And I learned it all from YouTube, to be quite honest with you. So I'm a self-taught sewer, self-taught cross stitcher, self-taught knitter, crocheter. I've not done that much lately.
Right.
But about, I would maybe about a year and a half ago, I was watching YouTube, a cross stitcher who also happened to do quilting, and I said, "Oh, that looks interesting and fun." So I joined a quilt along, and really dove into it and ended up loving it. And then that's when I found foundation paper piecing, and that has become my bread and butter. That's what I really just learned and picked up really quickly, and love the patterns that you can get from that process.
Yes, foundation paper piecing allows you to get those points and things that otherwise, or
Correct.
different shapes that you just can't get
Yeah.
by piecing. But interesting that you started out as a cross stitcher and other things. And so I think you've already kind of answered my next two questions. First of all, about how long you've been quilting. So it's been what over, you say?
I wouldn't say quilting has been 10 years, but it's been about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, so not new to sewing, but definitely newish to quilting. Year and a half. That's a good
Okay.
amount of time.
And have you focused in this amount of time that you've been doing quilting exclusively on paper piecing?
No, actually. So the quilt behind me is not paper pieced at all.
I was going to ask about that. I thought it was paper pieced.
No, I'm actually really proud of this one. The pattern's called Interwoven by Lo and Behold Stitchery, and there's a quilt shop in kind of the Houston area that kitted the colors together, and then so I did that, and then I added the piano keyboarder and mitered the corners and all that. And so I'm probably the most proud of that one so far
And you
because it
should
looks
be.
so crisp.
And you should be because it or just quilt. And I love the modern aesthetic to it as well.
Mhm.
Looking at it, I would have thought that was paper pieced, but now I
Yeah.
have to go look up the pattern myself. Now that I know it's not paper pieced.
Yeah.
And I think you've already kind of answered the next question was how you got started. You basically it sounds like you stumbled upon quilting from the
Yep.
videos you were watching about cross stitching.
Yeah, I had no idea that I was going to. I mean, I had won a blue ribbon in the Texas State Fair for cross stitch, and I've got two more pieces entered this year. So we'll see how those do. But so I've
Right.
not been brave enough to enter a quilt in a competition or a fair yet because, we're our worst critics.
Well, yes.
Eventually that's on my goals. But yeah, it was just really happenstance, and I'm kind of the type of person when it comes to art and creativity, if I see something and I like it, I say, I can learn that. I want to try that and see how I do. And I just kind of jump into it and enjoy the process along the ways. And sometimes you're good, and sometimes maybe not your forte, or you don't enjoy it. And that's
Yep.
okay. And you move on.
Sometimes it just doesn't work. Not
Yep.
every piece is perfect, like I know that for sure. But I was going to say then, you sound like you've always been what I would call a creative. So
Yeah.
as a child, what kind of creative things did you do?
Oh gosh, it was drawing. I would remember go to the store and get like the felt pieces, like sheets of paper. And I remember using a hot glue gun and cutting out like a teddy bear and making a teddy bear and stuffing it and that type of stuff. But it's anything with my hands. So I tried drawing and stuff like that. That never really worked for me because I need to be able to see it and mold it in my hands and really touch it and feel it.
Right.
And so that's ever since I was little. I mean, that's one of my earliest memories, to be quite honest with you, was in elementary school that I was doing that. And picked up cross stitch in high school. So it was just, one of those things that I always have to be creating something,
Yeah.
whatever
So
it is.
did you do any formal education related to any art or anything? No?
No, not at all. Everything's been self-taught from YouTube, to quite honest to you. And that's really what honestly prompted me to start a channel was because I learned so much from YouTube. I didn't have people around me who were doing foundation paper piecing or doing knitting or cross stitch, and I wanted to do it. And so I would look it up. And this foundation paper piecing, when I started it, I couldn't find many videos on it.
Mm.
And so that's kind of what prompted me to start one, just to show my progress. And if someone's interested to learn, like, hey, it's not that hard to do. It's complicated, but it's not difficult.
Yeah, but I'm a kind of person, I swear I must be dyslexic because I look at it and can't visualize flipping the papers, the other way. And I always what frustrated me more was I never cut the pieces big enough. And I'd flip
Yeah.
them over and go, crap, there's a corner not covered or whatever. But so did you have any influences when you were younger from anyone in your family?
Yeah, so both of my parents I would call creative. My mom sewed. I remember growing up listening to my mom sewing like our Halloween costumes, and would do that. My dad was great with, making furniture. He built a whole aquarium base for a 90-gallon aquarium, kind of come to life. So that's been in my family is some like creating things has been in my family since I was little. And it's just been something I've kept with. I never got into video games that much. I never got into reading that much, but it was more on the creative side.
Yeah. So, well, it sounds like you had a good foundation for all of that. So, now I want to just, before I go to the next question, I want to pick up on what you said about making dinner just and watching the models go on the runway of a McQueen exposition or whatever.
Mhm.
Did you do that from patterns or did you just look at it and form it?
Well, I started off with like a base like McCall's or Vogue pattern, the patterns you'd get at Joann's at the time.
Right.
But the complexities of some of those dinner jackets, you have to really modify those heavily. I've got one up in my closet actually, it's a red dinner jacket. It's Alexander McQueen, but it looks like patchwork and it's got interesting curves and things like that in different colors of red velvet.
Right.
And it doesn't fit me anymore, unfortunately, but because this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But putting it together, I created kind of the foundation and then I just drew on the jacket what I wanted to cut out, cut that back up, added my seam allowance, and then pieced those, pattern pieces back together and then sewed the whole jacket again. So it took a little bit, but
I
it
was going
was
to say,
worth it. I loved it.
well, I certainly admire your ability to be able to do that because I would never have it. I would never be able to do that. That's way too complicated for me. So, I mean, really, if you've done something like that, I'm sure when you got into foundation paper piecing, breeze.
It's, I struggled at first. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie. Like it's not it's not intuitive, I think.
yeah,
When you're used to traditional piecing, it's not intuitive.
yeah,
And what I'm trying to do is give as many tips and tricks. I actually just filmed something last night where it's like, hey, if you're having problems where you can't figure out the paper folding and it matching up and covering everything, try it this way. And so I'm trying to give people a lot of different ways to do it to see like, oh, maybe this will work for me. I'm going to try it on a cheap, or a free pattern I found on the internet really quickly. So I'm trying to take it like what's going on in my brain and kind of translate it into my videos, if that
yeah.
makes sense.
Well, it does make sense. And also, I think people, when they see these, are going to really appreciate that because, the videos I've watched about paper piecing are all you have to do it this way. And no, there isn't any such thing as quilting police. Well, actually, that's not really true. There are, but
Hmm.
let's ignore those ones. But yeah, so people are always looking for something that works with the way they think.
Yeah,
Too.
exactly.
So you're putting out
That's
there an alternative, and I think that's a great thing.
That's how we learn. I mean,
Yep.
and the way we've moved art forward is by breaking the rules, And
Right.
so, and there is a thing to be said about breaking the rules. I mean, if you go look at any modern quilt, I think I just saw one on Facebook the other day that won an award. It was a cabin style quilt, but the angles were all this
Yep.
way, and that was intentional, right? And that's not your traditional, but it won an award because
Yeah.
it was a different way of presenting it, and we broke all the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's important to break rules sometimes in order to get a good product.
Well, when you break the rules too, you learn other
You
things,
do,
thinking
100%.
outside the box kind of thing,
Exactly.
thinking outside of the fabric mold, whichever.
Exactly.
So, moving on then, do you have a favorite creation? And I don't just mean as a quilt, like something in cross stitching or whatever else you've ever created.
Gosh, that's a hard one to answer because I don't do things unless I really pour everything into it.
Right.
Um, I'm probably most proud of my craftsmanship on this quilt behind me because it was the first one that I really focused in on making sure everything lined up just perfectly because there's so many lines and stripes
Yeah.
and everything that I wanted all those points to line up, and so I'm really proud. And then patterning the piano key border and mitering the corners and watching I don't know how many videos on mitered corners. None of them made sense to me. I finally figured out a way that worked for me. And it's trial and error. So this one is probably my most favorite quilt that I've done. And then I took it and I'm in the process of learning how to long arm, and so I long armed it myself. So from start to finish, this is uniquely me, and I love that. So it's that's what I try to do. It gets something that is unique to me.
You know, a lot of quilters say their favorite project is whichever one they just finished. Too.
That's true.
My case is maybe the second last one I finished. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
why I'm called the idiot quilter. I make mistakes a lot.
Oh yeah.
So you, the fact that you long armed it, do you own a long arm?
I do. I do. I have one in my garage. I live in a townhome, so I don't have a lot of room to have a
Right.
12-foot long arm in my house, but I've got a two-car garage and just one car, so I have a long arm in there. Now in Texas right now, we just hit 100 degrees
Yeah.
outside, Fahrenheit outside, and so it's a little bit too hot to go in my garage right now. And I've got one on the long arm that I need to finish really badly. It's covered by a drop cloth, but it's one of those things that it is a big learning curve for me. I've had that for about a year now,
Yeah.
and man, that thing it's not easy to pick up. You
No.
learn something, you make a lot of mistakes on that, and talk about figuring out how to give yourself grace. Learning how to long arm is you have to learn that really, really quickly.
Yeah. So
So many things.
do you have a computerized long arm? So you're doing everything free motion.
I have found that I really like the ruler work on long arms
Yep.
because I guess my brain just works in that like you have to be kind of a quarter of inch away from everything you're doing in your ruler. So when you're coming to a point, you have to be just shy of that
Yep.
on your ruler.
Yep.
But that has really resonated for me on and what I do is I'll kind of draw it out with like maybe some chalk or something to kind of guide me and get a kind of an idea. But the
Yep.
rulers are really where I've found my speed.
Yeah. And what kind of long arm do you have? Like, what's your manufacturer?
Yeah, it's an Innova.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I went to the Plano Quilt Show last year in August last year, and met a man there who sold Innova long arms, and just chatting with him about what it was, how it works. I'd never really tried one before until I
Mm.
got there, and so he had one that someone had traded in, to trade up, and so he was trying to sell one that had been used. And I took that one and he came out and installed it. It's great because I've had many issues and he's been great to come out and fix them really quickly
Yeah.
for me. But yeah,
It,
it's an Innova 22 inch, 12
yeah.
foot frame. It's
Oh,
good.
that's good. Yeah. Well, the Innova's got a good name. I have seen them. They're rare in Canada, Innova. I have a long arm, but mine's an APQS.
Mm, yeah.
And I have the computer on it because I'm all about technology. And I'll
Yeah.
make a confession. I have this big beast of a machine and it costs a lot of money.
Mm,
And I use it, but I don't enjoy it.
hmm
Her name is Lucy because she came with that name because APQS names all their machines. And Lucy and I have words, a lot of words sometimes. And but my husband is interested in he's a garment sewer. He makes shirts and things like and
Okay.
he's made jackets that actually I everything I'm wearing is his
Oh, cool.
basically. But he's really wants to try the long arm. I says, "Hey, I'll show you how to put out a quilt." And my ultimate would be I like piecing. I'll
hmm
piece them, you quilt them. That would
hmm
be fine by me. But he hasn't he hasn't got there yet. He wants to do it, but he likes to do all kinds of other things too. So with it. But anyways, yeah, but I'm digressing here a little bit from that. Um, so what type of quilter would you, if you had to do a label, and a label is a very difficult thing for us creatives.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you label yourself. Are you traditional? Are you modern? You free form, experimental, exploratory? How would you characterize your, I guess I'm asking, how would you characterize your style?
Yeah, I would say somewhere probably in between traditional and modern.
Mm.
What I really get excited about is taking a traditional style and can we do something different to make it modern? So if you have like a disappearing pinwheel, for example, can you place your colors in a way that makes it look new and different, like nobody's seen before? And you have to get up close to realize, oh, that is a disappearing pinwheel block.
Yeah, right.
That's the type of style that I like. I'm working on a drunkard's path quilt design right now. It's traditional block, it's curves, things like that. But can I play with the color placement and how I position these different colors to really move your eye across the quilt in a certain way? That's
Yeah.
the type of stuff I like to do. So maybe lean more modern, but I like the traditional side too, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned in the traditional.
Yeah.
And then you've got paper piecing, which I think is probably purely modern.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how long it's been around. I've not done the research on how long it's been around, but
I don't know that either, but
um,
never really
yes,
thought about it, how long it's been around. But
yeah.
that's an interesting thing to explore a little further. Put that in
Mhm.
my list of things to do. Uh, yeah, so modern. I was going to say, yeah, I think you've got it spot on. Like between the traditional to the modern, I would say you lean more heavily towards the modern.
Yeah.
But just in what you've said there, I'd also put you in the experimental and exploratory
Yeah.
category
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. Absolutely. I
Uh,
think color placement plays so much of a
yeah,
it's such a big deal in a quilt that I spend most of my time on color placement, to be quite honest with you. That's where all of my energy goes
yeah,
because that's what I love is the colors. I
yeah,
obviously like using all the
yeah.
colors. Um,
No,
so
you're kidding.
yeah. So I think experimental in that color department
Yeah.
is probably the best descriptor for me.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of quilting or any of the fiber arts. It's, it can appeals to people in different ways, but that's what keeps it interesting, I think. When we see
Yeah.
how people, you give one person a pattern and say, do what you want with it, well, you're going to get tons of different things depending on
Hmm.
the number of people, which I think is great. So I am assuming you're sitting in your working area.
I am.
So, can you describe it? Is it a whole room you have set aside for it, or
Yeah, I would call this maybe a multi-purpose room. It is small. It is the smallest room in the house, and it's set up to be a bedroom, but it's also a study. Is really what it's for. So it's a really tiny room. My desk that I'm sitting at right now is probably about halfway into the room, to be quite honest with you. And then I've got my sewing machine right over here to the left of me, which takes up a whole husky table, with the embroidery arm and everything. Then I've got shelving on the other side that I'm looking at over there that's got fabric storage and all those types of things, a TV over there. So yeah, and I've got a couple windows in here, so it's great to just kind
yeah?
of be in here. I work from here a lot of times, and then pack that up and get out the quilting stuff and start working on quilting. So
Yes, I was going to ask you. So, you obviously are a machine embroiderer as well, because I saw the module.
yeah.
So, do you do a lot of machine embroidery?
That's something I'm starting to learn. I'm interested in doing it. I think there's a lot of potential uses for it in making
Yeah.
quilts. Um, and so I'm really interested to see can I embroider some blocks, cut them up, and then piece them back differently and get a cool different block. And so that's really what I'm starting to explore right now
Oh,
is how do I use that to really take my quilting to the next level and
right.
interesting and different?
Well, I'm glad you said that because I am a machine embroiderer as well. I absolutely love my embroidery machine. And a lot of people get embroidery machines and all they want to do is monogram towels. And
Yeah.
there's so much more. I especially love in the hoop applique and
Hmm.
three-dimensional things, and all of that. I've done it all. And I'm constantly, my latest project is cheap felt heavy felt bags from a dollar store that we have here in Canada. They just came out with them, $5 a piece. I bought 12 today because I embroidered two last week and put a design in. They're going to be eventually Christmas presents. But
Oh, nice.
but I love that the idea like you can do so much more than
Yeah,
just put a
absolutely.
make a baby's singlet or something with their name on it or whatever, that kind of
Yeah. And of
oh,
course, you use it for that sometimes, but
yeah.
is there a way that you can use it to its full potential and try
Yeah.
new things with it?
Well, believe it or not, I have had some people tell me they've had an embroidery machine for 3 years and it hasn't come out of the box because they're afraid of it.
I
Well,
mean, it is intimidating, to be quite honest. It's big. It's really
yeah,
big.
yeah, they are
I've got
big.
I got the Big Daddy over here, basically. But
What is it?
it's
What's
it's the Janome Continental M17 is what I got.
yes?
Um,
No,
so
you know me, boy?
it's my first Janome. Honestly,
Oh,
this is probably my first really nice sewing machine. I learned on a cheap from Joann's $50 Singer machine, and then eventually moved into the Brother machines, and then decided, you know what, I really enjoy this. I'm going to get a Janome, and this one had a lot of good reviews. And when I was doing some research, I knew I wanted something with embroidery because I was kind of looking at Juki or Janome, to be quite honest with you.
yeah.
But I don't think Juki has embroidery units. They're more of a
No, I don't.
straight stitch.
Yeah, there's more
Uh,
straight stitch. Yeah,
yeah. So I've got I decided on the Janome, and I've got a Singer 301 upstairs in like a little desk cabinet. If I just want something that's going to do straight stitches and something that I can sit in the living room and watch TV or something, then I can do it up there on that.
yeah. I will know me, boy. Only because when I first got into quilting, the only place near me, they happened to be a Janome dealer. And I've loved my
Hmm.
Janome. I have a 550E as my embroidery machine, and I have an M7 as my sewing machine, and I have a Skyline S7 as
Oh
well. That's
wow.
my travel machine.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love Janome products. So yeah, and yeah, the M17, yeah, it looks good. Not a cheap investment. That's
No,
the thing about no,
it's
but
not. It,
you got to go all
It's
the
it's
way.
been fun. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to, and there's a lot of things on there that you discover as you're using. Like,
Yep.
oh, I didn't know I could do that, and so
Yeah.
now I'm gonna start incorporating that in what I use. So it's very intuitive, though, is what I would say how to use it.
Yeah, most of the joinery machines I've ever used, whether it's embroidery or the sewing, they tend to be very intuitive. At least I have found them that way. So
Yeah.
I love them. But okay, so we're talking sort of tools right now. So what's your favorite tool?
Um, Besides my sewing machine and
Yeah.
besides my long arm,
Yeah. Besides
um,
those things, the big
I,
machine.
you know, one of the things it depends on what's going on, because it's almost like a new tool or new notion for quilting gets invented every day sometimes, and then it gets shared, and everybody goes obsessive over it, and then everybody gets it, etc. So
Yeah.
the latest thing I have, though, I've talked about it in my last two videos, is my Acorn Easy Press Pen.
Hmm.
That thing, when I'm doing foundation paper piecing, there are so many, and because they're little tiny sections a lot of times.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of overlapping seams and you want them all to lay flat. And I have a little iron, n near me that will help, but the Acorn Easy
Yeah.
Press Pen, just little line of starch makes it to where those seams lay so flat, so nice. And if you make a mistake and you have to rip it out, it goes right back to flat. I don't know how it works, but
Yeah.
it's amazing. And
Yeah.
it's been life-changing for
I
me.
use it all the time. And did you know it's a Canadian product?
I did not. I
Yes,
did
it's
not.
invented out west in Western Canada. Yeah, the people did it. So yeah, it's one of our contributions as Canadians to the quilting scene. But I use it
Oh,
all the time too. I love it. It's great stuff. I'm bound uh for that. So now I was going to say, and do you have a favorite technique? But I'm thinking your favorite technique might be paper piecing, at least right
yeah.
now.
Yeah, foundation paper piecing is my favorite technique. And I think the reason I like that is because there's some prep work involved in it, but once you get yourself prepped, you just sit down and you can sew. And it becomes kind of like, I don't want to say mindless because you do
No.
have to think about it, but you get in a rhythm. And for me, when I'm doing, any type of sewing or any type of creating, to be honest with you, that's when I kind of process the day or what's going on in my mind and most of my thinking is while I'm creating. A lot of times I'm thinking about what new things I want to create while I'm creating something.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's foundation paper piecing really is been my favorite that I've discovered.
And I noticed in your latest video, you were talking about what you did with your add a quarter ruler
Oh
and
yeah.
cardboard thing. And uh, can you explain to me, did you put those two things together so
Hmm.
that it's one unit? So
Yeah,
I'm
it's one
assuming,
unit.
yeah, I thought that was genius. I
I
mean,
need to go patent that thing, I
yeah,
think.
I think
Um,
so. Yeah,
but it's this right here, and this is like free advertising for Milestone Electric.
yeah,
It's just one of those like plastic mailers you get.
right.
And I just took some painter's tape, put on the back, and kind of created a hinge to where the quarter goes right over the edge of the mailer here. And so a lot of times still see people line up like a business card or something on that edge, and they'll fold the paper back, and then they're grabbing they're at a quarter somewhere. It's connected, and so you just
Yes,
put it right over, and it's good. And then when you're done, you just kind of set it to the side and you move on. So
I think it's genius. I think
yeah,
something so simple. You really should look into getting a patent on that.
I should I
You
should
should.
try.
You should. And if you did, I get one from your first batch with your and you've signed it for me. So
Deal.
maybe I'll do paper piecing if I had
There
that.
you go. If that's
So,
what it
yep.
takes.
So, what's my next question here? Okay, if you had all the money in the world, is there a piece of equipment that you would invest in? Now, you've already got a
Yeah.
long embroidery machine and a very nice sewing machine combo there. Is there anything left?
Yes, there's always things
Something, yeah,
left. I mean, I don't know if this is not equipment, but a bigger sewing room, like a studio, would be fantastic, where I could be messy and cluttered, because the creative process is messy for me, at least. It is not an
I think it's for all
organized
of
thing.
us.
It is
Yeah,
chaos. But a place where I can have my long arm, everything in one spot, so I can easily move back and forth, and there's never enough room for the amount of fabric that you
that's
have.
right. That's right.
You're always bursting at the seams of, where am I going to put this? I love this piece of fabric. I have no idea where I'm going to use it, but I want it.
Yeah.
So I got it.
Do you ever
So
get the
bigger
question
space.
when you walk into a fabric store and you're getting some fabric cut and someone says to you, "Oh, what are you going to do with that?" And my answer is, "I don't know. It's pretty."
Hmm.
There's
Yep.
people who say they will only buy fabric because they have a very specific purpose
Yep.
for it. Of
Hmm.
course, they're the same people that will buy, um, I was going to say this in meters, but I'll say it in yards. Like, I want 7/8 of a yard. No more, no
Yeah.
less. Oh, why don't you put all caution to the wind and get a whole yard, for God's sakes?
You,
But
I use sometimes, if we're getting close and I need, like, maybe I'm like, oh, I'll just get a yard, and then it comes out to be a yard and a half or a yard and three
yeah,
fourths. I'm like, I'll just take the rest of the bolt. Just give it all to me, because I'll find another way to use it somehow.
that's the way I look at it. You'll always find some other place. And if not, it's going to look nice on the shelf.
Exactly.
It looks pretty. So let's change the topic a little bit. Now, have you ever belonged to an in-person group like a guild or something, or a design team or an online group? And how'd that go for you if you did?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I recently just signed up for my local guild. I'd never been in one before. So I signed up, and I got my first email from them actually today. So I decided, I want to start connecting with people in my area too, on that like quilting and are very like-minded. So I signed up for the Plano Quilters Guild. And then I've got another person who thinks I would enjoy the Dallas Modern Quilters Guild. So I need to look into that group as well. So I've not been to a meeting, but I can say I've been to the Plano Guild's quilt show,
Yeah.
and it was fantastic. Everybody was super wonderful, and great at describing and showing you the backs of quilts and things like that.
Well, the advantage to being part of a guild too, and not all guilds do you find that you will feel comfortable in, but if you find a guild that you do feel comfortable in, because I hate to say it, there are some guilds I've had
Hmm.
firsthand experience that are just nasty.
Yeah.
And it may sound sexist, but they're nasty because we're men. They
Hmm.
feel like their space is being invaded. But other guilds are the exact opposite, very warming, welcome you in. And the thing was, I did belong to a guild for a while, which was a nasty one. But I did learn a few things when I first got into it. I was in it for a couple of years, until the nastiness just got unbearable.
Yeah.
But the thing was there were people there experienced, and there were many people who were willing, even in the Nasty Guild, to help you out. So I
Yeah.
found it very useful that for that kind of thing. And of course, usually guilds have guest speakers come in, and you always learn something from somebody, another expert out there or whatever that
Yeah.
comes in it. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to be part of it. I'm part of the guild of YouTube. Now,
Yeah.
I have my own little group, my own cronies and everything
Hmm.
that's there and stuff, and that satisfies me
Yeah.
for now. But I wish you luck with that, and I hope it works out
You
well.
know,
You get a lot out of it.
it's interesting you talk about being male, in the creative arts, because there's a lot more men in quilting than there are men in cross stitch, to be quite honest with
Yeah.
you. Cross stitch has very few males. And that has been, I've had an easier time in the quilting world than I have in cross, nothing bad in cross stitch, but
No, but I
I
know what you
felt I felt way more at ease in quilting world than I have in there's some fantastic cross stitch people, so I don't want
mean.
anybody to think that I'm downing the cross stitch community because they're really fantastic. And
Yeah.
um, but sometimes you go into a shop, and you kind of feel a little out of place, and ooh, I don't know if I'm really welcomed here as much. And usually, if I encounter those situations, I don't give it much energy. I'll just turn around and I'll leave because I'll invest my energy somewhere else. I don't really want to spend much time there.
Yeah.
That's zapping my creative energy, and I don't really
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
invest in that. So,
Exactly. Well, I have tried cross stitch. I've been thinking lately of trying it again. I tried it many, many years ago, and I got frustrated with it. But my sister is a cross stitcher. She has been since she was a teenager, and she does beautiful work in that. And I'm sure I could get some help from her. I've been trying to
mhm.
talk her daughter, my niece, into learning how to quilt, but she says that's for old ladies. I said, "You're fine. You're never getting another quilt from me, a little." Anyways, we'll move on from that. So, what's your favorite? Okay, supply wise for you. Now, you live in a big area, so I
Yeah.
imagine you probably have access to a lot of stores, but do you have a favorite one or two? You can name them all.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them, well, probably three that I frequent the most so far. So where I'm positioned, Linda's uh, shop is in McKinney, Texas, which is 20 minutes north of me.
Okay.
And so they have a big online presence, at least here in the States. I don't know how it is in Canada, but a lot of people go to them. And it's a lot of long arming stuff, but they do have piecing and tradition, regular bolts of fabric there that you can grab. So I've gone up there quite a bit to get supplies, notions, a lot of batting. They sell a lot of batting. So Linda's Electric Quilters, I think is what it's called. Then I've got another one where I got my long arm from is called Ready Set Quilt, I think. And that's great. Nova Diller, he's got threads and fabrics as well. But then there's a quilt shop, and it's not in driving distance of me, but it's about 4.5 hours south of me, called Threaded Lines, and that's actually who I got this pattern
Yeah.
from and the fabric from. And I just like how she uses colors to create her color stories and
Right.
her quilts. I mean, Rainbow Galore, which is right up my alley. Super, super nice. It's her and her husband. Fantastic group. This is actually breaking news. So she's doing a sew along that
Mm.
she's calling a slow along. So it's going to be a slow
Those.
process. Doing the Sweet Tooth quilt by Jaybird Quilts. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
Yeah, I think I have. I think I have.
yeah.
I mean, I've done
So
research, but
I will actually be doing, some of the blocks on my YouTube channel, and sharing those in my progress of that slow along,
oh,
for
okay.
folks. So, but she's fantastic, easy to work with. I absolutely love her.
Yeah. Well, it's very fortunate that you've got places fairly close to you, at least two out of
Mhm.
three that are close, so you can get your supplies because so we have a fair number of quilt stores in Canada, but they're really spread out because we're a
Yeah.
large country, and there's miles and miles between. So the other place, of course, for getting your fabrics and that is online. So do you do a
Mhm.
lot of online shopping?
Yeah, I have, and honestly, the one that I normally get got my fabrics from is actually closing. They're retiring. So there
Oh,
was a shop in Nashville. So I'll need to find another online source and I will tell you there's tons of other quilt stores in Dallas. There's actually one that's opening up near me in about a week or two. Right, like literally 5 minutes away from me that I'm gonna go check out here pretty soon. So I need to start investing a little bit more on what's near me, and
yeah.
I want to make sure I'm supporting my local,
Yeah, we
stores.
do. And are
Um,
you a touchy-feely person when it comes to
yes,
fabric? Okay, okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, a
I've
lot of
always
people
been
are.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
can't help
not.
it.
I mean, well,
Really.
that's not true. If I'm in the quilt store, I'm feeling it. Yeah,
Mhm.
with it. But as long as my theory is, as long as I am buying fabric online by a brand I know, like if
Mhm.
you're buying Kona,
Yeah.
or my favorite happens to come from Northcott, which is a Canadian company,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. I know what I'm going to get from those. But if it's something I don't know and it's online, I'd be hesitant to buy it.
And quilting cotton is not made the same. Kona
No.
feels different than a batik.
Yep.
And I love batiks quite a bit. I use a lot of batiks in what I create, but that's two different textures. Kona and batiks are very different. And then you've got, I think, Bella Solids is out there. You've got I do a lot of cotton cuts
Yeah.
projects.
Hmm.
And they're really it's nice fabric, but it's a lot more slippery than what I'm used to with batiks. I like the grab of batiks because those pieces just stay together really well
Well,
when
it's
you're
it's a
putting them through
little
your machine.
stiffer, and
Yeah,
I like batiks too, and I like sewing with them because they are a little crisper when you're
exactly.
working with them.
Yeah.
But now, here's just a side question, because there is controversy out there. Do you mix batiks, regular quilting cotton in a project?
Absolutely.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Yay. So do
It's
I.
gonna happen. I've already done it on the my YouTube channel. There's regular quilting cotton that's been printed on and everything, and then there's the batiks. And I think they belong together. I mean, if you get a finished product that you love and it's visually appeasing, let's say it's a more of a show quilt, which is what I'm kind of working on in my YouTube right now. This is definitely more show quilt style. It could be a bed quilt if you want, but you're not dragging that one, in the dirt outside. It doesn't matter to me if it's a batik or not. Like, just make it look good. Does it present itself
Yeah.
well?
Yeah. Well, and then here's the other question I have to ask that wasn't on your list. That are you a pre?
Yes, I do like to pre-wash, but it depends. If it's, like obviously, if I'm not pre-washing jelly rolls, because you're just gonna lose your life.
You're
It's
gonna have a
it's
knot.
it's gonna be awful. But if you get yardage and I want to start a project, I will pre-wash. And what I do is I pre-wash it because I use so much batiks. I want to see what the fabric, the color fastness
Mm.
is of them. So I'll use those shout color catchers.
Yeah.
And generally for batiks, in my experience, it's always been the blues and the purples, which are my favorites,
Yeah.
that have the most fabric bleed. And so you especially if you're putting them right up next to a white,
Yep.
you want to be really careful when you do wash it, to make sure that there's no fabric bleed or anything like that. So I will pre-wash. I like to pre-wash, get it out. Now I've recently discovered a new way to pre-wash. If you've not done this, I take the two ends and I sew them together, the two raw edges,
Oh
and you
yeah.
make a tube. And I throw them in one of those like washing nets that you can do, like a
Yeah.
pouch.
Hmm.
Wash them, throw them in the dryer. I just throw them all in the dryer and then get them out. You can easily just use your rotary cutter and cut that seam off, and you have no fraying at all. And you lose like less than what you would use from normal fraying. So if you haven't done that, I suggest it.
Never have, but then see, I have a confession. I don't pre-wash. Well, most of the time. If I've got if I've got a backing fabric that's in a deep red or
Yeah.
a deep blue, and if
Mhm.
I'm not sure of the brand, I've never used it before, I will then, because I had a bad incident once with a red that, yep,
Yeah.
and I had white on the front of the quilt.
Yep.
Yep, it's now pink.
It's
So, and I use
I
color
like
pictures, but
I like to know how my fabric's going to perform when I get it to my machine.
yeah,
Like I like to know, and so when I get them out, I will go back and restarch them and press them to where they're nice and, crisp again. But I just like to do like one cycle wash. Doesn't have to be crazy,
Yeah.
but just get whatever's gonna come off of it already.
Yeah.
Let's get that off and
Yeah.
start over from a nice fresh piece of fabric.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're much more cautious than me. I just throw it all to the wind. And yes, and it comes back to bite me in the you know what. Okay, so now we're talking about that a lot of things you've had to turn to YouTube, as all of us have. I call it, graduating from the University of YouTube,
Yep.
with this. So in your travels on YouTube, do you have any favorite sources for information or assistance or experts you go to on a maybe a regular basis, or is it just random?
I try and follow a lot of different channels. I found that you can pick up great pieces of information from so many different,
Hmm.
channels because everybody does things just a little bit different. Or they'll say, in my experience, this has worked, or this is a new tip or trick that I found.
Right.
Or they learned that from another YouTuber, and I'll go follow that YouTuber. So I don't have like a set group. I'll join like Sean, the guy who sews,
Yeah.
recently found
Mhm.
him. And I'm actually going to be on one of his lives in the upcoming, weeks.
Yeah. I'm on. I'm gonna. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. So, there's some that do like regular lives that I'll try
Yeah.
and tune in just to hear what they're working on, and see what's like a lot of times they share what new notions or fabric they find too, and or patterns that are out there. They're like, oh, that kind of want to look that up or see it, or I want to get inspired. So I'll do that and I'll have that in the background while I'm sewing, to be quite honest with you. It just makes it go by,
Yeah.
it's like
Yep.
you have people in
Mhm.
the room talking with you.
Yep, I do the same thing all the time. The ones that when I started out with, I don't go to them as I used to because, well, I exhaust. I don't know with that, but I'm always looking for new ones out there because, as you said, you can always pick from somebody's. They do something a little different, or even if it just gives you some inspiration. Uh,
Yeah.
that's what I use YouTube for more than anything these days now. So, speaking of YouTube, let's talk about your YouTube channel.
Okay.
Okay. So you're called the Boy Stitcher
Yep.
on there. So there's a name that, I think is catchy. People will figure that one out. So why'd you start it?
I started it because when I wanted to, a couple things. I wanted to document my progress. Um, I found like I found that I am my worst critic. And when I'm documenting my process and I can go back and look at where I started and see like, oh, that's how far I've come. And I'm doing really good. I'm going to
Yeah.
give myself grace. So
Yeah.
partly for me, to be quite honest with you, to have some type of record or log. Now, you could normally do that and just share and save that on a drive and not share that with anybody, but I figured, hey, might as well put this out there. If someone else is interested
Yeah.
in doing these types of projects, then I want to be a resource. And when I first started, Be Colorful Quilts is the quilt that I'm working on. That's the brand. And when I YouTube searched them, I think I found two videos
Mm.
from one quilt shop that was probably, I've got to be like 7 years old, 8 years old. Great videos. But, we've come a long way in our filming technology and how we set up our camera angles and things like that. And so, and I watched those videos so many times on repeat just to learn the technique and
Right.
how they worked it. But there wasn't anything else out there. Tons of Judy Niemeyer. She puts out a lot of videos and they're
Yes.
very
Yes.
helpful, right? But nothing for the Be Colorful. Like now she does traveling kind of, classes and everything, but there was nothing that was readily accessible. And so it's not so much maybe a tutorial, or it's more of a come with me as I'm experiencing this and learn with me as we're going through this process, because I've never done this before either. This pattern is new to me. And I'm making mistakes, obviously, as I go.
That's something I like in the videos I was watching. You made a mistake a couple of times and you were upfront about it and then you showed how to fix it. And
Yeah,
that's why I started my channel, The Idiot Quilter, because I was making all kinds of mistakes, but all the videos I was watching, everybody's magic of
perfect.
television, they were perfect. And sure, they're nice to look at, but for a beginner, if yours doesn't come out perfect that first time, you get frustrated very fast. And I want to show people, no, it's a process. You will make mistakes.
Mhm.
Get over it. It's not the end of the world. You'll learn as time goes by how to avoid those or to fix them. So
Yeah.
that's what I found that was lacking at the time that I put my started my channel up too. So do you have what's your future plans then for your channel?
I really like the format of come quilt to quilt with me. Come watch my progress, chapter by chapter. We're gonna, section this out because I haven't really talked about this because I don't think it's that important, but this is the toughest quilt pattern that she has available. She
Mm,
has a 6-star, I think she started as a 5-star scale, then moved up to 6, and now this is a 7-star quilt. So it's a massive, big project, and yeah, it's a really involved quilt. But when you sit down and you break it up into chunks, it's not that bad, and you're doing a lot of repetitive motion. And so, I want to continue that. I almost like have different seasons of my YouTube channel. Like this, I'm in my first season right now doing
right.
this cashmere quilt. In season two, do I do another foundation paper piecing quilt? And come along, watch me in my progress here. Watch me make the mistakes or learn the pattern as I go. And if you want to join me, great. Or if someone picks up the Catch Me quilt, 2 years from now, my videos are still out there for them to go
Yeah,
along with me
yeah,
and
true.
document that progress. And so I think I would like to get in that, continue that. I think some other things that I'm interested in are like how we use technology in quilting, I think is going to be the next big thing. And when I'm talking about technology, I'm more thinking about like AI. How do we use
Yeah,
AI
yeah.
to
I've been
make us better in quilting? It's not going to make you a quilt. And
no.
you've seen the YouTube videos where they try and put like AI make me a quilt pattern. It comes out disaster,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's always learning. And
yeah.
so it's better than it was yesterday. And eventually it will be able to make patterns for us.
I've
You
had
know,
it make a pattern.
there you
There you
go.
go. I mean, and that was about 6 months ago or so. Just as an experiment, to see what it would do. It didn't do a bad job, but I gave it just very simple
Yeah.
instructions for it to do that. But yeah, I think in probably within another year, yep, patterns are
Yeah.
going to
And
be AI generated.
it's interesting because AI, I think, in the creative world has such a negative connotation.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, it's not a creator, it is a tool. It
Yeah,
is just like our sewing machine. Because
exactly.
think about when sewing machines were invented. People would hand sew, and now you have a sewing machine that can put out a quilt, in half the time.
Yep,
Think about like how many people were probably resistant to that because that's taken away the craftsmanship. And that's true. There is
yeah.
a true craftsmanship in hand
Craftsmanship to
sewing,
hand stuff. Yeah,
but it's a new tool out there for you to use, and you can use it in different ways. I'm not saying that handwork is any less. There's beautiful handwork pieces out there. I mean, fantastic. But can I use AI as a tool to make it something different or unique or fun or quicker?
yeah, or quicker. And there are people who believe that having a computer on a long arm is cheating.
Yeah,
I don't. I said you're like to learn how to use the computer on a long arm is a very steep a learning curve. You just don't go in and say, "Computer, make this." No, that doesn't happen yet.
yeah,
Yet.
yeah,
But but I don't consider it cheating. I just get using the technology. It's the 21st century
yeah.
way of doing it. I mean, the equivalent to that is, so if when I hear someone say this, is so are you still washing your clothes by banging them on a rock in the river?
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
no,
It's
I
it's
use a washing machine. Ah, of course I use.
eventually it's going to be kind of in our everyday, lives. It's
Yep,
just, and I want to make sure that I'm on the forefront of that and learning and growing with it to make
yep.
sure I'm using it in the fullest potential. I
Oh yeah,
mean, I don't want to lose, creating and patterning out something yourself by hand because I think there's something that is really unique and
yep,
special when you present that and say, nothing else besides my brain helped me create this.
yeah.
I
It's
think that is so cool.
in my way
But
of thinking, it's not an either or situation. You can use both
you do
depending
both.
on whatever the purpose at hand is with it.
Yeah.
So, but some people get their little knickers in a knot over all of that. But oh well, they'll be dead soon. Um, so Do you have any challenges or goals for the future in terms of projects you might like to do? Like after you go through this paper piecing journey you're on right now, is there
Yeah.
something else you want to get into or explore?
I would love to explore creating my own patterns. And I've got some ideas kind of percolating that I don't want to share yet,
Yeah.
but I'm starting to sketch and draw them out and sit there and think, okay, how can I make this a quilt? What do I need to do? Can I use foundation paper piecing or a combination of foundation paper piecing, applique, traditional piecing? Can I use some type of combination to get me that finished product? Because I use an app called Procreate on my iPad, and
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
just draw, and you can have all the colors. It's really easy to use.
Yeah.
It's great to draw everything out, and then you can go back and start, putting in your lines. When you create foundation paper piecing, you're creating your lines to help create your curves and that
Right.
type of stuff.
Right.
So, you kind of have to build that out. And there's a lot of math involved in it, which I
Mm.
have a math minor, so it
Well, there you
works.
go.
It's right up my alley. But it's something that I would like to start creating my own patterns, and
Yeah.
that's something that is not out there. While these are beautiful, I want something that is mine
Unique.
that I created. Yeah,
And unique. Yeah, true.
exactly.
But I've written some patterns. I'll tell you this, pattern writing is not easy, and I
No.
am not doing anything on the scale that you're thinking of right now. That's for sure. So good luck with that. But I have a feeling, yeah, you'll be able to do that, no problem. Again, send me your first pattern, sign it.
Okay.
And
Will do. Will do.
so I think we'll finish up here, but I have a question for you. So, do you have any advice for anyone who may just be getting started in this art form?
Yeah, probably two pieces, to be quite honest with you. The first one is don't fall into the trap that I fell in. I fell in the trap of watching YouTube, and chances are, if someone's putting a YouTube video out, they've invested a lot of money in this craft already,
Mhm.
and they're wanting to share it. Don't think you have to have the fanciest tools to do what I'm doing. You can do this on a $50 sewing machine.
Yeah.
You do not need that. So don't feel like you have to go out and buy the expensive stuff yet. They're nice and shiny, but get something that, you can try out and see, do you like it? And then you kind of graduate up. And if you really truly like it, it is an investment. So
Right.
that'd be the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is don't give up. It's not, if you really want to do it, you can do it. It takes time. It takes practice, just like everything else. Think about when, if someone's wanting to get into quilting, but they've been sewing, it's not easy to pick up sewing to begin with, and it
No.
takes time. You make a lot of mistakes. Don't give up. It's a new, like, give yourself some grace. It's a journey. You're at a different part of your journey than someone else who's, across the room from you or on the screen that you're watching. Give yourself some grace and and just enjoy your journey and learn something new every day. If you're not making a mistake and learning something new every day, maybe go back and say, like, okay, what do I need to do to really push myself and
Yeah.
learn something new now? And I think that is really where you start honing in and getting excited about what you're putting out there because you're proud of pushing yourself beyond what you thought you could do.
Yeah.
It'll
Yeah.
happen. You just gotta stick with it. You'll get there though.
Yeah. I think that's good advice for sure that you've given. Well, okay, thank you so much for this. Now, just before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say that maybe we haven't covered or
No, I just want to say thanks for watching. One, I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on. I've really enjoyed this. It's when you put yourself out on the internet, it can be a little scary sometimes,
it
right?
can
And,
be?
and
Yes, it can.
you're not quite sure what the reaction is going to be on this global. It is a global stage, and it's very. I'm more of an introvert, to be quite honest with you. But if you get me on something like quilting, I will talk your ear off, and so putting yourself out there and then the reaction that I got, there's just so much positivity and encouragement and people being excited for seeing it. That has been such an awesome experience. So I just want to say thank you, and I hope that we can continue to grow and try new things on my channel, and really explore what else can we do with foundation paper piecing? Because there's more stuff. I really
Oh
think
yeah.
there's more things we
Oh,
can do with
I
it.
think you're right too. Well, I'll be watching, but I am also going to post all of your social media links in the show notes for this
Thank
video
you.
when it goes up, so people can go and find you. It's the Boy Stitcher, so easy to remember. And check out Clint because I don't think you'll be disappointed, and especially if you want to get into foundation paper piecing, this is the place to go for
Well,
sure
thank you.
on it. But again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. I've really enjoyed our time together, and I'm going to say goodbye, but don't you go away.
All
And
right.
yeah, well, thanks
Uh,
again, and good luck with your journey, as they
Thank you.
say. Bye
Bye.
bye.